Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 29th, 2014. I'm Steve Miller, and this is the Asia Brief. China is considering removing 9 crimes from its list of offenses punishable by death. Currently, 55 criminal activities are eligible for the death penalty, but a draft resolution put to the National People's Congress could reduce that number. Crimes that would be exempt from the death penalty under the proposed guidelines include smuggling weapons, ammunition, or nuclear materials, counterfeiting money, and raising funds by illegal means. Human rights groups say that China currently executes more people than the rest of the world combined. The High Court of Hong Kong extended a temporary injunction against protests at 2 locations, but protesters refused to leave. The government and legal professionals said that they fear the city's celebrated rule of law and tradition is being seriously threatened. Brenda Chow, a resident, says the students are being too selfish, that they are ignoring the rule of law by occupying the streets for so long. Robert Chow, one of the founders of the Alliance for Peace and Democracy, a pro-Beijing group, helped collect over 800,000 signatures in opposition to the Occupy movement. Quote, "Everyone thought the Occupy movement would end in a week. We had hoped the government would untangle this mess. But we waited, and waited, and waited. And now we have to do something." Both sides, those pursuing democracy and those supporting Beijing, are now gearing up for the next phase of what seems to be a very long protest, with some 90% of protesters saying they're willing to remain on the street for a year. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe expressed no desire to revise a past government apology for Tokyo's sexual enslavement of Korean women during the Second World War. South Korean government officials hope this indicates Japan's continued efforts to improve their stalled relationship. South Korea's National Assembly Speaker Chung Hui-hwa met with Abe at his Prime Minister's office, saying Prime Minister Abe repeated the exact words he said in March. He said he would completely inherit the historical perception of past governments. It may be an unpopular move at home, as some Japanese lawmakers have called to revise or rebuke the statement. There was no mention from the South Korean government about an ongoing lawsuit filed by 122 South Korean women who said Seoul forced them into sexual slavery following the Korean War. Coming up later today on the Asia Now podcast, is Asia headed towards a new Cold War? Thank you very much for joining me today. Follow the Asia News weekly Twitter and Facebook feeds for more news. The Asia Brief is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 international license.